The skies over Paris were heavy with clouds that morning, yet the gloom didn't keep people away. Along the banks of Canal Saint-Martin, crowds had gathered, lining the bridges and railings, their eyes fixed on the dark waters below. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video. Something unusual was happening. The canal, a centuries-old landmark woven into the history of the city, was being drained. Inch by inch, the murky water receded, exposing secrets that had been hidden in silence for decades. At first, there was nothing but mud and ripples. But as the water level dropped lower, whispers ran through the crowd. What would they find at the bottom of a waterway that had seen more than 200 years of Parisian history? No one knew, and that was precisely why the crowd stayed, holding their breath as if watching a curtain rise, on a stage where the city's forgotten past was about to perform. The canal itself carried a rich story. Ordered by Napoleon in the early 19th century, its purpose was practical, clean drinking water for a rapidly growing population. At the time, Paris had around 550 inhabitants, but the city was already battling cholera and dysentery. Fresh water could mean survival. Over time, the canal also carried food and building supplies into the city, its waters flowing silently beneath bridges and past neighborhoods that would later become some of the liveliest districts in Paris. But history is never just clean water and commerce. The canal bore witness to revolutions and wars. Near its hidden underground stretches once stood the Bastille, stormed during the French Revolution. And throughout the 20th century, its waters became both a resource and a dumping ground. By the turn of the new millennium, authorities realized that what lay beneath had to be faced. Every 15 years or so, the canal was drained, dredged, and cleaned. The last time this massive project took place, back in 2001, Parisians were shocked. Over 40 tons of waste were removed, and not just bottles or cans. There were bicycles, bullets, and even relics from World War I. A car, rusted and skeletal, was lifted from the muck. It was as though the city's collective memory had been thrown into the canal and left to sink beneath the water. And now, in 2016, it was happening again. The draining began slowly, workers guiding millions of cubic feet of water into holding reservoirs. The process would take 3 months and cost the city millions of euros. But there was no other way. As the water sank lower, crowds pressed closer, eager for the strange spectacle. Some people joked about treasure lying beneath. Others muttered darkly, remembering the weapons and war remnants found before. When the water reached half a meter, the first shapes emerged from the depths. Workers paused to recover what was still alive. More than 5 tons of fish, trout, carp, bream were carefully caught and moved to safer waters. The sight was almost surreal. Wriggling life carried out of the canal like refugees, leaving behind a stage set for the strangest discoveries. Then, the objects began to surface. At first, the ordinary shopping bags, bottles, rusted cans, but soon the unexpected appeared. Bicycles, dozens of them, tangled together like skeletons of some mechanical beast. Many were from Paris's Vela bike-share system, introduced in 2007. What should have been a symbol of modern convenience now sat twisted in the mud, their frames bent, their wheels broken. It was as if the canal had quietly swallowed them whole. Next came mopeds and motorbikes, astonishing the crowd. How had such expensive machines ended up in the water? Were they stolen, joyridden, then tossed away in the night? No one could say for sure. Then came larger items, a toilet, absurd and strangely comic in the mud, followed by an office chair half buried but unmistakable. For some onlookers, it was funny. For others, it was unsettling. A man named Bernard shook his head. "It's filthy," he muttered to a reporter. "I don't remember it being this bad before." The youth treat it like a trash bin. His words hung heavy in the damp air, a reminder that beauty often hides neglect. Yet, the deeper the workers went, the stranger it became. Suitcases appeared, their fabric rotting, their contents long gone. A stereo, cracked and rusted, sat among the mud like some forgotten relic of another age. And always, more bicycles, hundreds of them, as if the city had been pouring its broken machines into the canal for years. The people on the bridges stared in disbelief. Each object was a piece of a puzzle they would never fully understand. What stories lay behind them? Who had thrown them into the water? And why? Day after day, the canal drained further, and each layer of water pulled back another curtain of mystery. Crowds gathered again, leaning over bridges, standing shoulder to shoulder on the banks, waiting for the workers to pull something extraordinary from the mud. By now, the bottom of Canal Saint-Martin resembled a graveyard of forgotten objects, each one carrying whispers of a hidden story. 2 motorcycles were dragged from the sludge, their once gleaming bodies now covered in rust. Onlookers gasped. How could such valuable machines end up at the bottom of a canal? Some speculated theft, others suspected insurance fraud. A few even joked that Paris's nightlife was more dangerous than it looked. The truth remained hidden in the shadows of the water, another unsolved riddle. More bizarre finds soon followed. Traffic cones, shopping carts, a filthy suitcase, even a shopping trolley stacked with bottles. A worker bent over and pulled out what looked like the remains of an old stereo system, a piece of the past that seemed almost out of place among the rubble. "It's like a museum of Parisian mischief," one spectator muttered. And yet, alongside the humor, there was unease. The sheer volume of waste shocked the city. Hundreds of bicycles, countless bottles, cans, and bags. Office chairs, toilets, mopeds, all piled together like offerings to the canal. Some called it bizarre, others called it tragic. The canal that once symbolized health and fresh water for Napoleon's Paris had become a mirror reflecting the habits of modern life, and it wasn't always flattering. Still, there was something strangely captivating about it. One man, staring down at the mud, said quietly, "It's like the canal has been holding on to everyone's secrets, and now they've all been revealed." His words carried across the crowd, silencing the laughter for a moment. But the workers pressed on, catching fish, clearing mud, and hauling debris. For 3 days they rescued the last of the bream, carp, and trout, transferring them carefully to other sections of water. Life, too, was salvaged from the filth, and then, slowly, the project neared its end. The mud was cleared, the trash carted away, and once again the canal began to fill with fresh water. What had been a spectacle of decay now transformed into a symbol of renewal. For Parisians it was a reminder of how fragile beauty can be, and how easily it is lost when neglected. Deputy Mayor Celia Blauel spoke with hope. If everyone mucks in and avoids throwing rubbish into the water, perhaps one day people might even swim in the canal. It was an ambitious dream, but the idea caught hold. To swim where once hundreds of bicycles and rusting motorbikes had lain, it seemed almost poetic, a story of rebirth. And as the waters returned, shimmering under the gray Parisian sky, the canal resumed its place as a place of life and leisure. Young Parisians once again gathered at the cafes along its banks. Tourists strolled the bridges, and artists sketched its walls covered in graffiti. Most passers-by never thought about what lay hidden beneath the water, but those who had witnessed the draining would never forget. For them, Canal Saint-Martin was no longer just a picturesque landmark. It was a keeper of secrets, a place that reminded them that every city has a hidden side, stories buried beneath its surface, waiting to be uncovered. And sometimes, when the water drains away, the past comes rushing back, carrying both laughter and unease, and leaving behind a lesson about time, memory, and the things we choose to throw away.